Hello guys, it's Chris here from the Football League Hub. So it's just an update today, a brief one in regards to what's been going on with the Manchester United manager search, because there's a lot of news going out right now. So you guys will probably be wondering if something's going on, or surely something's happening because the news has got a lot of traction. It's coming from a few newspapers, and we'll talk about what that entails shortly. And we'll still talk about Zidane. Obviously, that's the news that's coming out, and we're going to talk about Brendan Rodgers. We're going to talk about Solskjaer when he's expected to go back to training, what the situation of him going on holiday, and some of the questions from Twitter. So let's just recap. And from the previous podcast, it's still the same sort of situation with Solskjaer. So the board has been extremely quiet with the media. So there's been a lot of opinions that have come out, which has caused some confusion with the fans, which I understand that, because they have to spin stories sometimes because they're not getting any news from the club. And obviously they have to sell papers, and obviously they have a quota to make and those sort of things. So that does happen with some of the journalists. I'm afraid I won't name names because I'm not like that, but you can work that out yourself. So with Solskjaer, since he lost the Manchester derby, it's been embarrassing the last few weeks for him. Well, this season so far hasn't been very convincing at all with the players that he's got. But Joel Glazer insisted straight after the Manchester derby a few hours before that Solskjaer would remain as Manchester United manager. That hasn't changed. That hasn't altered. He's still saying the same thing. So that's still coming from Glazer. So he's not really altering what he wants to do there. So the likelihood is Solskjaer remains in charge for Watford, and we'll go from there. So that's where we are with Solskjaer. He's expected to be back into Carrington on Monday, Tuesday by the latest. So, there'd be another discussion there. Of course, they have board meetings on a weekly, monthly basis. So they'll probably be discussing what's going to happen next. So we'll see some more stuff that comes out next week regarding that, because there will be a meeting discussing about, the previous, what's going on, what's expected from here. And we'll see if Joel Glazer actually makes a sensible decision in the future with bringing in a new manager, which is what all the Man United fans want, and what's needed at the club now, because we've had this for 3 years. We've seen some improvements. We haven't seen trophies. Of course, this season was pivotal, was important for trophies, but it hasn't happened. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. I know it's still early in the season, but you can see the sort of the trajectory of what's going on there. So, the fans, there's a lot of unrest between the fans. There's a lot of division between the fan bases, which always happens. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of stuff going on Twitter. You've got to ignore it. If you're just a fan of the club, don't worry. It's people's opinions, but being toxic is part and parcel, I'm afraid, of social media. So you just have to ignore that. Now, been a lot of news around Brendan Rodgers, so we'll talk about Brendan Rodgers in a minute, but we'll talk about Zidane, because Zidane's been the hot topic for the last couple of days, and there's been a lot of news that's come out about it, so we'll talk about that and we'll break it down. My opinion is that Zidane's the right person to take Manchester United forward. The reasons for that, for me, is that he's won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, where we had. He's also won the La Liga. He's played, he's managed players like Ronaldo and Varane, who are now at the club, incidentally. You've got the likes of Pogba that might stay because of Zidane. So there's a lot of benefits around him coming in, and has a good quality coaching staff that, unlike Solskjaer, I'm afraid, doesn't have that experienced coaching staff to elevate this team. So, there's a lot of pluses with Zidane. The only cons with it are he doesn't speak English, but again, that's quite easy to pick up. And you have to convince him. So with Zidane at the moment, okay, he's appreciated by the board. So the board have a list. They said, and make no mistake about it, they have a list. He's on the list and he's extremely high up. So Zidane is there in the board, and they have been thinking about it. However, there's been no talks. There's been no talks with Zidane at the moment. Okay. Will that change in the coming days? It potentially could, but you're seeing a lot of accounts come out. They're saying Ollie's resigned, Zidane's in. They're guessing, okay? And I don't want to go into too much detail around it. There's a lot of accounts that are guessing right now, just for interactions and likes. And I'm going to break it down to you because someone who has inside football knowledge and looks at football on a day-to-day basis, okay? You know, when a manager resigns, it doesn't take 1 or 2 weeks for that news to come out, okay? That is completely unusual. So when a manager resigns, that's normally filtered across within 24 48 hours. So that hasn't happened yet, okay? Also, the nonsense around Ole still being there and he's resigned, that also doesn't happen as well. The club of this magnitude is not going to do that, all right? Nobody's agreed a deal with Manchester United. If they've agreed a deal with Manchester United, it would already be out there. You know, you would already see the likes of Leicester City. You know, we've seen people saying that Brendan Rodgers has agreed a deal. We'll see Leicester come out with, and there'll be news around them looking for a new manager and those sort of things, right? So, you know, you see things, unfortunately, because you want to look at it from a positive aspect. And I get that. And I understand that from your point of view is that you don't want to see the negativity. You just want to see positive news. And that's what these accounts prey on for you. And I warned many people, and I warned them the last summer, I warned them again, and I warned them constantly each window that these accounts will crop up each window because you're going to give them interactions, because it's always positive. There is no negativity with them because they're not transparent or clear with you. So make it known that if Solskjaer resigned, we would have known straight away. It wouldn't take 1 or 2 weeks to come out. It's just absolutely nonsense. Even the media don't know, right? And some people can say, oh, but the journalists are protecting the jobs, or the journalists will say anything, right? They don't care about that. What the journalists do is some journalists have direct links to the club, right? Who do you think the club's going to contact first? Are they going to contact some random account on Twitter? Or are they going to speak to a journalist that has more following interactions, can get that news out to the papers, the briefs that come out from the clubs, right? Be sensible with what you're looking at, because quite often or not, people will tag me into things on Twitter, say, can you confirm this? Or look at this guy's white. They're guessing. You don't have to believe me, but I can assure you, they are guessing at what's going on. And you need to stop looking at that and be sensible and stick to the mainstream media. You know, a lot of these accounts will attack the mainstream media because it puts them in a good light and it gives them the interactions. And you're like, yeah, these guys know. You know, I see people saying that Fabrizio Romano doesn't know anything. Do you know how hard he worked for years to get into the position of where he built all the connections? He used to go around to agents, to the clubs. That's a proper journalist that's got those connections. You know, his accuracy is like 99% plus. Sometimes, you know, you get burnt, and that's because the club sources have said something to put you off the trail and he gets burnt. But attacking those journalists that know 99% of the time, yeah, okay, maybe they recycle it a little bit too much, but they're still the ones that are going to get the information first. They speak to the agents, they're credible. You know, they've qualified for these jobs. So attacking those particular journalists are absolutely ridiculous, and I never respect that, right? So I just want to clarify that those accounts do not know what they're talking about. Now, it's up to you. You can go and take your opinion and you can go and look at them and say, yeah, we believe you. That's up to you. I don't control what you do, okay? You can do whatever you like. I'm just warning the people that are sensible and logical to look at it properly, to look at it in detail, to say, actually, how would they know? You know, where did they get this? Why are they doing this, right? I'm telling you, they don't know, right? The club haven't said anything. They're not in talks with any manager right now. They've got a list. Zidane's on the list, right? Rodgers is on the list. Ten Hag is on the list. Pochettino is on the list, right? Rodgers is very attainable to get because his release clause and he wants to go to Champions League club. Hence, the rumours have heated up. That's perfectly normal. You don't see a lot about Pochettino and Ten Hag because their clubs have already said we don't want to lose them this season. Leicester City haven't said it. And if you look at Zidane, he's available. Now, and that makes it obvious for his rumours to heat up. And there's Ronaldo and there's Varane. So it makes a news story. And some of the times this will prey on it. And that, you know, that's what it is. Okay. He's on a list. It's about convincing Zidane of the Manchester United project. Now, they might do that in the coming days. They might do it in weeks. I can't give you a definite answer when that's going to happen until it's been communicated to me. But nobody can tell you that they suddenly know when Zidane's camps signed a contract, because they're not. Look, Zidane's not going to say, "Oh, let's speak to a Manchester United account and let's let them know first." Come on, guys, you've got to be logical, right? So Zidane at the moment, there's no news, there's nothing, right? But Manchester United appreciate him, and obviously Ronaldo and Varane would know. No doubt about that. And the Glazers might speak to them at some point. That still hasn't happened. But at the moment, Solskjaer's still in charge of the job. But if they can convince Zidane to come, absolutely, he would be an opportunity to go. And as I said, but there's a lot of convincing going, but there's nothing official right now. And there's nothing official with Brendan Rodgers. And I keep telling you this. And if it changes, I will tell you, and I'll do another podcast. But I just want to get clarity, because it can be very confusing on Twitter, because you've got all these ITK accounts that talk a load of nonsense. You know, they just make you hear what you want to hear. Okay, I just want to clarify. So at the moment, Solskjaer's still in charge. There's a list. Zidane's on the list. He would, they can convince him, Zidane would come. But there's talking about the short-term contract. Does he want to take the French job, or would he take a PSG job, which is the potential? Those two things are ahead of Manchester United. But if Man United convince him, then Solskjaer is in extreme trouble. But at the moment, we are not at that position. There has been no official talks. So the club can go and speak to him the next coming days. But people can predict it 3 or 4 weeks ago and say, "Oh, Wally's resigning, Zidane's coming," and then 5 or 6 weeks later, it happens. But that's not how football works. They never had those talks 3 or 4 weeks ago. So how did they know? Come on, guys, be logical with it, right? So that's where we are at the moment. But I'm not ruling out Zidane, because it could happen. There's no noise. There's nothing from his camp. But what I'm saying is, at the moment, Solskjaer's still in charge for Watford. Joel Glazer and the board are still discussing on a weekly, monthly basis, because obviously performances are not improving. So ultimately, they're going to be looking at options, because you're seeing a lot of rumours right now. So they're definitely looking at the list and saying, right, okay, what I think Solskjaer, we need to get in now. So we could see in the next coming days, or we could see next week, or the week after, or the week next, depending on what happens after Watford and the other 2 games. Then we could see some news. But those accounts that have reported it 4 or 5 weeks ago don't know. They're just predicting, and that's what they're doing. Because football is fluid. Operations, it changes on a day-to-day basis. Talks will happen on a day-to-day basis. When you're looking for a manager, you could look for a manager within 48 hours, in 5 weeks' time, and get him. That doesn't mean those accounts know, because there was no information before. So you've got to think about that. So be logical with what you're saying and what you're asking me to verify or check on Twitter, because I've said many times that I don't do that, and I'm explaining it now because that's the reason. Obviously, I'm not annoyed by it, but a lot of people do on Twitter. But I'm just warning you, these accounts don't know. Okay, so that's my rant over. So as I said, Solskjaer's still in charge for Watford at the moment, as things stand. The holiday was obviously planned. I wouldn't read too much into the holiday, absolutely at all. I've not looked into the holiday. There's been no news about why he's been off for a week. Okay, so they could look for a manager in the coming days or after the Watford game. They obviously have to have a contingency. The club know after the Manchester City game that Solskjaer is still there, and I did say by default, because they might be looking at a list, and those are the 4 names on the list: Zidane, Rodgers, Ten Hag, and Mauricio Pochettino. And if you break it down, Mauricio Pochettino is not available until next summer at the very latest. He's come out and said 2023, so he's no intentions to come back soon. Ten Hag at the moment will honour his Ajax contract till the end of the season. Obviously, he's got further contract than that, but he would like to move on afterwards. So he's an opportunity end of the season. Rodgers would like to move to Champions League club. Leicester City have gone kind of stale in this season, so potentially he thinks he's done enough. So his rumours are there. It's quite clear that they've put that out there. Zidane's available, and he's worked with Varane and Varane and Ronaldo before. Okay, so there are the reasons of why you're getting a lot of these come out. And that's where we are at the moment. And in the coming days or the weeks, or if within 24 hours someone tells me, "Why, Chris, something's going on," I'll tell you. But I can't fabricate negative news like all these other accounts, because that's not transparent. That's not clear. That's not how journalism works in that sense. And some rogue journalists will come out and say random stuff. That's up to them. But you've got to be logical with what you're asking me and what you're looking on Twitter. But just because it's positive doesn't mean it's the right news. So I just want to clarify the situation at the moment, and that's where we are. If I get anything changes in the coming days, then I'd certainly tell you what's going on. But at the moment, Solskjaer remains in charge for Watford. Joel Glazer can make the final decision. Board are speaking constantly. They have a list, as I've mentioned, but there's no official talks at the moment. Could there be official talks tomorrow? Maybe. But at the moment, we don't know that. Nobody knows that because the club haven't mentioned it. None of the camps have mentioned it. Could there be talks in 2 or 3 weeks' time? Absolutely. It depends on results. But at the moment, as things stand at this very point in time, Joel Glazer still back Solskjaer, and they have a list. And that list, they will speak to them if it's unofficial or official talks when they feel the time is for a change. And then we expect something to happen from that list. And that's the list. And we'll certainly see if they get someone from that list. And I'll know more as we go along. So I appreciate you on that, guys, today. Unfortunately, I have a few Twitter questions that people want to ask regarding what's going on. I will do that in a separate podcast because I haven't got the time today, I'm afraid. So we'll look at that on another day. But thanks, guys. And what I want to say to you is this. Keep the mainstream media. Look for my updates. Come and join my Discord if you want. Subscribe to my YouTube if you want to. It's entirely up to you. It's by choice. I never force anyone to do anything else. Look at our Instagram page. And make sure you enjoy your week, and we'll see what happens after the Watford game next weekend. So thank you, guys, and I appreciate that today.